Welcome back. As some savvy viewers may know, I am a longtime Metal Gear Solid fan. And a while ago, I acquired a couple of orks from Artel W, with my eyes set on creating a Metal Gear inspired ORK Waaagh, focused of course on stealth tactics. I acquired a few kits, and even converted a few characters.
Oh, so you've played Super Smash Bros. Melee before?
Though the project didn't end up taking off, but I still had the models sitting in the project box. And so I thought, why not bang out one of the models for Orktober's end? And who better than the only orc to have surpassed the one with the codename Boss, the legendary soldier himself. Let's paint a Big Boss Warboss. Unfortunately, when setting out to make this video, my Big Boss Warboss was already primed, though I can share the conversion work using some photos I took at the time. The base model is Artel's Squat and Recon Commanda. I decided to model my Big Boss Warboss after Metal Gear Solid 5's Venom Snake for two reasons. The first being the Squat and Recon Commanda seemed almost too perfect. The Special Ops aesthetic is ideal, and the Power Claw for Venom's cyborg hand is a great fit. Plus, he's got that cigar as well. And secondly, this obviously isn't the Big Boss. He's an orcification of the original character, a twisted reflection. So it works on that thematic level as well. And so, using green stuff, I sculpted some hair and an eye patch, trying to capture Venom Snake's aesthetic, along with a few extra straps and an extra pouch. I also added a plastic hard eye patch for his skull belt badge, taking some cues from Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker's MSF logo. As for the overall scheme/direction, I opted for the Peace Walker style sneaking suit. Not only does this model happen to have the straps in the right areas, but it felt to me to be more unique for a custom Warboss, and a thematically stronger choice for the concept. And I find the idea of orcs donning sneaking suits endlessly amusing. And now that the conversion work has been sufficiently broken down, it's paint time. So I'm starting with the orc skin. Whereas GW opts for a more yellowish green orc skin, I wanted something a little cooler, more tealish, as you can see here on this older orc I've done. For the orc skin I have in mind, the color blend range I'm using is Incubi Darkness, Sons of Horus, and Ogryn Camo. The process is very organic, starting with a simple base of Incubi Darkness. And as you will see, the Sons of Horus is slowly blended in, ultimately shifting to the Ogryn Camo. But first, I want to block in the inside of his mouth. I'll be using Corn Red for this, which will also serve as the base color for Big Boss's Power Claw. Then I'm off to building up the skin tones, along with applying a layer of Dryad bark, which will serve well as a base for Big Boss's brown hair. And this is where things are sitting. A bit of a floating head vibe for now, but I think the colors laid down are working well together. From here I begin to fill in his eye, continue building up the skin's definition, and put down a custom earth shade onto his hair, and apply the base color for his fingernails and teeth using Steel Legion Drab. At this point I wasn't liking what my custom wash did to his hair, so I go back in with some watered down Dryad bark to tone down the wash's intensity and the glossiness. And it's time to start adding some dimension to his body. I'm using Model Color London Grey as the base color for the block-in, keeping in mind to define the areas which will best evoke the Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker sneaking suit. From here I begin to layer up his teeth and nails with Army Painter's Skeleton Bone, and then push it further by mixing in a bit of Game Color's Off-White. I continue to further build up his skin. For those unfamiliar, due to an explosion, a piece of shrapnel becomes lodged in Venom Snake's skull, adding a bit of demonic imagery to Big Boss's design in Metal Gear Solid 5. For our Big Boss Warboss here, I'd like to think that this is actually a piece of Blackstone. And of course, a piece of Blackstone becoming lodged in the skull of an orc would only serve to empower him to a level worthy of the title Big Boss. At this point I shift gears, back to the sneaking suit, adding dimension by building up that London Grey by layering in a little bit of Model Color Dark Sea Grey. I also apply a layer of dry-earth bark to serve as the base of the yellow metal bands of the sneaking suit. And I think it's about time to start adding some metal colors. I'm using Vallejo's Metal Color Exhaust Manifold. I kind of hate painting metal components, but I find Vallejo's airbrush metal colors go down much easier. It's a far more viscous paint, which I suppose is obvious since it's an airbrush paint, but I like the working time it provides when applied with a brush. It allows you to move the paint around to establish quick metal materials with solid coverage. And here's how he's shaping up with the metal areas defined. Next up is the straps and packs. I'm using Castellan Green here for the base color, and Averland Sunset for the base of the metal straps. The plan here is to go for a non-metallic metal type effect, so I'm not completely covering that base layer. Then mixing Averland Sunset with some brown on my palette, I make a transition color to step Averland towards the low lights of the base color. And here I'm mixing Averland Sunset with some off-white to get some highlights. And I just sorta keep at this, enjoying the process. The same sort of idea as cooking to taste. Since I had the yellow out, I thought I would add a yellow element to the Power Claw, with the aims of following cues from Big Boss's cyborg arm. Though I started to get a Ronald McDonald kind of vibe, so I ended up painting over this later. At this stage I decided to pause and add some instant dimension to our metals with a Nuln Oil wash, and a bit of diluted Black Templar's contrast for his custom Shuda. After the wash dried, I followed this up by adding a bit more Corn Red, specifically to the grenade on his hip, and this detailed area on the thumb of his Power Claw. For his signature cigar, I used Rhinox Hide, and a pretty standard array one would use for flame transitions: Evil Sun Scarlet, Troll Slayer Orange, and Uriel Yellow. Once the cigar was done, it was time to give the straps and packs a wash of Agrax Earthshade. Once the wash was dry, it really helped define the areas I needed to focus on, with regards to layering some brighter values on the packs and straps. And from here, we're on to the final stage of polish. Using Strachan Green, and eventually a bit of Ogren Camo, I begin adding highlights to the olive drab straps and packs. I experimented a bit here, deciding to play around with texture by adding controlled brush strokes, with the goal of trying to enhance the materiality and creating a more rugged look. From there I went on to adding the final highlights to the sneaking suit, as well as the MSF belt buckle. It was during this step I decided to add some scratches here and there. I then gave everything a quick edge highlight, and gave the metal areas a few dings and scrapes with Stormhost Silver. And to add a little bit more color, I decided to give him a lucky blue weapon wrap using AK's Prussian Blue, highlighting it with Prussian Blue mixed with Dark Sea Grey and washing it down with Nuln Oil. And lastly, I gave those metal yellow straps a final bit of TLC. And with that, he's pretty much ready for a one-man sneaking mission. All that's left is to finish his base, which I plan to do in a scheme evocative of Mother Base. And there you have it, a Big Boss Warboss inspired by Venom Snake of Metal Gear Solid 5. Right on time for Orktober's end. That's gotta be worth something, right? It was a fun one, and it was even a little bit cathartic to finally see the heart of this army project through, even if the army itself didn't come together. Oh right, I would be remiss not to point out in this video, I have an affiliate link for RTLW. The base model of what you see here is an Artel W model, so if you want to buy some cool miniatures like this one and help support my channel, use the link in the description of this video. As always, thank you to those on the Roll of Honor, Julius Maximus, as well as my other generous patrons and channel members. Anyways, there are buttons for liking, sharing, and subscribing, so press the buttons you want to press, and I'll catch you in the next one.